All right, so welcome. I'm going to do a screen share. Very straightforward. Nothing overly fancy. Hold on. I'm going to stop sharing for a second. Let me open up this. Okay, can you see the screen that says Akashic Records? Just give me a thumbs up if you can see. Perfect. All right. Thank you. Okay, so this is just a general presentation explaining what the Akashic Records are so that you can, decide whether or not this is something you want to play with. It's no different than, say, meditation or any other sort of mystical tool, except I have found really enjoyable resonance with it, and I wanted to share that with you. So this is Access Your Akashic Records with Ease and Joy. I'm Veronica Lee. I'm a transformational visionary, lifetime metaphysician, spiritual mentor and intuitive, writer and speaker, and I've been accessing the Akashic Records professionally, working with clients for over 17 years and teaching people to access their own Akashic Records for about 15 years. In this presentation, you'll get to learn a little bit about the Akashic Records. It's not going to be super comprehensive in the sense that it'd be like saying, okay, what is, mysticism, or what is God, or what is, something really big that's unnameable. So we'll just sort of go through what my experience is, and that way you have a sense of what it might be. And then we're going to have an experiential where you get to experience your own records and you can decide for yourself. We'll also receive guidelines for accessing your own Akashic Records. You will be accessing your records using a simple prayer. You will, once you access your records, you'll be able to perceive what it's like to experience your own records. And then, of course, to clarify your next step in relation to how you want to work in your records, or if it's something that resonates or not for you. So a lot of people think of the Akashic Records in relation to, say, past lives, right? They think that maybe they learned something, from Edgar Cayce, or they've heard from other people about what their perceptions are. No judgment, right or wrong. And it's not, in my experience, limited to just past lives. Sure, we can get insights about past lives, but personally, I enjoy feeling the yumminess of the records, feeling this divine connection to what I call love consciousness in the records. So in short, the Akashic Records are the records of all things. They contain the energetic imprints of anything that has been done, said, thoughts, felt, or perceived. And as well, their essence beholds the wellspring of possibilities, revealing probabilities and potential. So when people come to me for individual readings, oftentimes they're curious about, something in their life. Usually they're not curious in the sense that, like, gee, I don't know what the records are and I'd like to have a reading. Sometimes that's the case. Most of the time there's some area in my life I'm stuck. I would like clarity. And so in a reading, they can ask questions about anything, their health, their relationships, blocks, that are causing them some issues, their health, let's say, their gifts, right? So it could be anything that wants to be revealed. And what I find by working in the records is that there's so much energy that's infused with love that, in addition to getting information or guidance or insights, my experience of the records is feeling this energy of love consciousness. And my hope is that when somebody's in a session with me, that I can hold space in that same way. As a lifetime metaphysician, I have been working with, all things weird and mystical since I was a kid. I was going with my mom to her metaphysical groups and holding my hands over people. I was taught to visualize myself getting well. I was taught to practice my intuition. And I'm talking, I was, 3 years old when I started this journey with my mom. And it was absolutely part of my normal upbringing. When I started working in the records 17 years ago, one of the very first things I wanted to know when I asked the records, what is this? What is this field that I'm in? And what's the difference between the Akashic records and then psychic phenomena, which is what I was raised with. And what I was shown, felt, and experienced was the Akashic records contain all things, including psychic phenomena, but psychic phenomena couldn't necessarily hold the entirety, the bigness of the Akashic records. And what I experienced was a lack of judgment in this realm, whereas with psychic phenomena growing up, it might be, oh, I'm sensing that person and they're a real jerk, right? And now in the records, my human opinion might still have these filters, but in somebody's records, like, wow, they're so grand. They've got all this potential. Here are their gifts. And it's a completely different energy for me in terms of experiencing this realm. There are many ways to access your records. When I started accessing the records as a professional for myself or for others, I was originally went through an organization that gave me one prayer. I paid $300 for that one prayer. Jokingly, I paid for the whole weekend, right? And the prayer was limited, and it was, to me, sexist, and it didn't feel very empowering, but it worked. And it was kind of cool. It's like, wow, I have all this information by using this prayer. What I was told about the prayer, and I'm not negating any of it, but what I was told is that that this prayer came from the Pleiades. It was given to the Mayans. It was then translated into Spanish and then translated in English. So don't change that prayer. And so I didn't. I was like, oh, I can't, change the prayer. And one of the things that was really interesting was within that first year, I was going to another course from another teacher, and she gave me a book, and she's like, oh, here's this book about the Akashic records. And so I was reading through it. It was like a really short little book. I'll share the name of it in the chat in just a minute, but it's called Remember Who You Are by Sean Martins. And, it has this really cool information, et cetera. Go to the back of the book, and she has a completely different prayer. And I'm like, see, I knew it. I knew there wasn't just one prayer. So once I started teaching people how to access the Akashic records, I really wanted them to experience it in ways that were empowering, and wanted to open up any door that they could go through to access their records, right? Because accessing your records is your birthright. So you can use prayer, you could use meditation, alternate nostril breathing. You can play with divination tools and use the tools to access your records. You can do dance, movement, any other body-centered practices, yoga, lucid dreaming, pure intention, or simply a shift in awareness. And that's just a really limited list. So there are so many ways to access your records. No right, no wrong. It's what resonates. There are a few guidelines. These aren't have-tos, but high recommendations about accessing your records. Ideally, you want to abstain from recreational drugs and alcohol for 24 hours prior. You will probably get the most clarity that way. When I do readings with clients, I will ask them, make sure you refrain from alcohol and drugs 24 hours prior. And what's interesting is that there have been times that people are like, oh no, I totally forgot about the appointment, and I had a bottle of wine and had some edibles, and I still get information. I've just been doing this a long time. We have this, very cool festival in Davis called the Whole Earth Festival, where I set up a booth, and people are smoking a lot of stuff there and drinking, whatever. And then people have signed up for readings and come staggering over, and I can still get information. May not be as clear, but, it can work. I would never, on the other hand, I have in 17 years, never, ever used drugs or alcohol prior to reading somebody else's records. To me, I'm going into their sacred space, and I am going to be as clear as possible. So that is a non-negotiable in my book. Know that accessing your records is your birthright, and it is important to be in integrity when accessing the records. So You may be able to get information, but in other words, when I work in somebody's records, I'm working with them, and I may get information about other people in relation to them. But if somebody asked me, I did literally have a woman who came in and she was retiring, and she was thinking, what about this? And I'm thinking about doing that. And I got some information for her. And then she says, well, what'd she say? My friend Shirley, what should she do? I'm like, I don't know. That's neither of our business. So we're not going to go into Shirley's records to figure out what she should be doing with her life, right? In order to access the records, it helps to relax, breathe, and bring your awareness into the present moment and into your body, right? That's just one way, again, guidelines that can make it easier, and to ask for clarity and neutrality. There are just 3 things you need to access your records: intention, an open heart, and your intention are the so-called keys to open your records. Attention, which is focusing that attention, to this, anything that's changing. It's not like, oh, now I'm paying attention to the records. It's like, I'm setting the intention to access my records. Now I'm going to pay attention to what's going on. What am I feeling? What am I hearing? What's happening that might be different? Paying attention to those little subtleties. Basically, focusing your attention turns the key. And then the hardest one, the one that took me a long time and I had to practice over and over and over, was trust, right? Trust opens the door into your records. I will say that, people would come to me, ask me questions, and literally it'd be like, why are they asking me this? I have no idea. And then I'd soften and relax and listen, and I'd get the information, I'd share them, and then they'd nod their head. And I'm like, wow, it works. I was doing this professionally for 5 years before that doubt started to dissolve, right? And so it's not to say that you have to be working in your records for 5 years and that's the turning point. But for someone who came in, very intuitive and had all this intuitive practice, it was a little daunting to think, well, I don't know this information. Why are they asking me? And to not just suddenly soften and go, it's just information, and I'm just going to relay the information I'm getting with as much clarity as possible. So trust was the trickiest part for me, and trusting what I was getting and trusting to say what I was getting, right? Together, my mom and I would teach intuitive skills classes, which is, separate from the records, just general intuitive skills. And, it's very common for us to get information and negate it. Whether it's, oh, I had a vision. Oh, what was I, that's superstitious. Or, oh, my stomach, I had a feeling, but then we ignore it, right? So when we start working with intention, with our intuitive skills or any other of these metaphysical skills, we need to start learning to trust. And my mom and I would often talk about, just say it, just say it, just say it. And even if you're wrong, it's okay. Just say it, right? Just practice. And so we would create these environments where it made it, safe for people to say what they were getting. So accessing your records is your birthright. No one needs to stand between you and your records. Okay, so this is the fun part. We're going to go into our own records. You don't have to do this exercise, but if you want an experience, we're going to play. If you want, so human beings, we tend to be somewhat superstitious, right? We tend to like ritual naturally, right? We tend to like things to have some sort of special quality. So what we're going to do to access our records with this particular prayer, now this is just a generic prayer. It's not the one that I paid $300 for, because part of my agreement was I would never, share that prayer with anybody. Works for me. I didn't like it anyway. But this is basically one prayer to access your records. The book I will throw in there, and I'll do that while we're doing, when you are focused, I'll type in the name of the book. Again, that has another prayer. You could probably buy, at this point, 17 years ago, there was probably only one book or two about the Akashic Records in terms of an entire book dedicated. Now there are many. And I guarantee you, whichever class you take, whichever, modality that you look into that talks about the records, oftentimes they are going to give you a prayer, and then they're going to want to try to, copyright that, which is fine. But know that they can all work. So I'm giving you permission to say, find one that resonates, make up your own, right? So what we're going to do, because we do like ritual, we do like this idea of rhythm in some way, and a little bit of superstition in there, is you're each going to say this prayer out loud. We're going to say it 3 times. So I'll be saying it out loud. You're saying it at your own space. Nobody else is hearing you, out loud to yourself. And we'll say it twice out loud together, even though it's not really together, right? Because we're not hearing each other, but it is. And then we will say it one more time, but that 3rd time, you're just going to say it inwardly. And instead of saying my own or my Akashic records, you can intersect your name somewhere. What is the word? Inject, whatever the word is. Get your name in there somehow. So in other words, it is my intention to access the Akashic records of Veronica Lee, right? It is my intention to open, the Akashic records of, and you could say your full name, you could say your first name, you could say your birth name, it doesn't matter. But the 3rd time you say it, just say it inwardly so that you're kind of identifying you a little bit more. And that's just part of a ritual. Again, doesn't even need to happen. So this is just going to set us up in a way that we can feel like, yes. And I've been doing this, I've been teaching this forever. And so it works. It's trust me, trust. And we will be experiencing this realm of being in your own records. Okay, so when we begin together, we'll just say the prayer twice out loud, and then I'll create the 3rd time to ourselves. And this time, just include your name somewhere in the prayer. Okay, here we go. It is my intention to access my own Akashic records. I pay attention to all that unfolds before and within me as I open my Akashic records. I trust I am now in my own Akashic records. 2nd time. It is my intention to access my own Akashic records. I pay attention to all that unfolds before and within me as I open my Akashic records. I trust I am now in my own Akashic records. And say it to yourself this 3rd time with your name. So I put the book in the chat. You don't need to look at it right now. So remember, we were talking about intention. We've set the intention, attention. So at this point, just feel whatever's going on with you. What is going on in your body? What is going on in your stomach, in your thoughts? And I'm going to share with you some things that people experience while in their records, and all are valid. You might be experiencing a dizziness. You might be experiencing sort of a lightheadedness. You might be experiencing a sense of like peace, just this sort of things dropping away. You might be experiencing some kind of like tingling in the heart, or maybe a vibration, a tingling of the physical body. You might be sensing sort of like what I would call it, like everything seems sideways, like something's a little sideways. Honestly, the first time that I was working the records, my very first workshop, I literally felt like I was on acid, and it scared me because I had kind of like freaked out on acid, in high school. And so that was like not fun. And then I was like feeling like literally I called my teacher because I thought, okay, I'm about to be abducted by aliens. And I was freaking out. And thankfully I wasn't abducted by aliens, but it felt so bizarre. And then I've had other people who really don't feel anything except this inner calmness. So all are valid. So if there's anything that you are feeling or anything that is, coming up for you that you want to share, you can raise your hand and I would love to hear what your experience is. And if you're not feeling anything at all, you can raise your hand and I can, see what's going on. When you're in the records and there's a little, at the bottom of your screen, it'll be a little part that says, raise your hand. You can simply bask in your own records. You don't have to do anything. You could just sit there and be in this field of like, ooh, this is kind of floaty, right? You can ask questions, which is often, obviously it's how I work, but it's often what I do when I'm feeling stuck or curious or would like some clarity in my life. I ask questions. And in terms of asking questions, sometimes it can be tricky to discern what's the records and what's my mind. And the simplest definition I would give you is if it's love infused and not critical, that's the records. If it's scared, doubtful, and contracted, that's your mind. Okay, so that can be one way. So right now, if you feel like you're connecting in with records and you just want to kind of see, ask yourself, and you could either write down the answer or just feel the answer. What is the value of accessing my Akashic records? You're asking your own records. What is the value of accessing my Akashic records? And just feel into that. And let whatever comes to you, come. Again, there's no judgment anywhere. And when you're in this energy field, you can ask anything you want. One of the things about asking questions, I recommend, highly recommend, keep the questions very open-ended without the emotional charge, right? You don't want to ask, oh my God, should I get a divorce? Or, what's my next job? Right? It's like, you don't want to be asking freaking out types of questions because you probably won't get information, at least not at first, but rather, what do I need to know? And if there's something that's specific, like an area that you're concerned about, maybe it's your health. What do I need to know about my health right now? Right. And even ask something, let me turn this light on, something around your highest good. What is in my highest good to know right now about my health, about this relationship? What am I not seeing that I might need to know more about? Right. So to keep the questions open and less intense. And over time, if you start with these broader questions, you can start to bring some more direction into the questions. Like, okay, so now I was shown something that I needed to know, and I was shown some things that are my blind spots around it. Then it could be, okay, what do I do with this? What is the best way to move forward? Right. So before we close our records, because this is just a 45-minute presentation, I do want to ask if anybody wants to share and have any questions about what is your, first of all, if you have any insights or feelings about being in your records, I'd love to hear about it. And, or if you have any like confusions or blocks, am I really in my records? Then I'd love to answer that and support you. So any questions from anybody? All right, so I'll go ahead and unmute you. You can unmute yourself. Yep, there you go.
Well, I definitely, I've, been experimenting with this a little bit already, and I definitely, each time that I go into my Akashic records, there is a very specific feeling, um, that I have that I, can't attribute to anything else. And it is sort of a vibrating feeling.
Mhm.
And I uh, I still have trouble asking questions. I still have trouble deciding I want to know
Mm.
whatever the answers are.
Mhm.
But I did just now ask that, what is the value of accessing my Akashic records? And what I got back was that I need that love infused perspective and the alternative to the, usual critical kind of, what did I write? Doubting mind. So
Yes.
that's my experience so far.
Beautiful. I appreciate that. Yeah, no, it's true. It's like, and the story I like to share, and it's kind of pathetic, but it's true. We do have judgment, right? And I came from a very judgmental family, right? And one of the things that I was so used to, I mean, that's how you discern right from wrong, good for bad, good person that, you want to be with, and bad person you want to stay away from. And when I was first learning to access the records, I was working with a client, and she was somebody I knew, and she was asking about an affair that she was having. And I heard my own mind going, oh my gosh, I need to tell her husband. I mean, oh my gosh, I can't believe she's telling me. And I didn't really plan to tell her husband. It was that sense of like, I don't want to know. Why is she asking me? And then she was trying to ask about the affair, and, and I don't know what she was asking specifically, but I totally felt my judgment. I had to calm myself down and go inwardly, because I didn't let that show on my face. It was a phone appointment, but nonetheless. And it was like, okay, what do I need to know about this? Let's ask this inwardly. And the records were so full of love. It's like, oh, interesting. And so then the information I gave her was, the easiest way to approach all of this that you're going through is to be honest with your husband, to just be honest and say, this is what I'm feeling. Here's what's going on. And then her response was, oh my gosh, I could never do that. But that was the information. It was like, this would be easiest. It's not that you have to, this would be easiest. And if you continue to lie, it's like, it's just going to create more friction. Things are going to get difficult. And I just was like, wow, I heard this and I heard this, and this is what I said, right? So then fast forward maybe a year, whatever, 6 months, she calls me again, and she's now freaking out because his wife found out and her husband found out, and there was all this mess. And now she wanted to like know what to do next. And again, my mind was like, told you so, right? But I didn't, I mean, that was what I heard, right? And I listened, and the records were like, oh, that's the road you took, right? There was this non-judgment, this pure like, oh, okay. So here's how you can mop this up now, right? And it was just like so straightforward and so much loving energy that I thought, I want to be more like that. So
Mhm.
it really has, over the course of 17 years, not to say I don't still have judgment, not to say I still don't hear that voice, not to say that in my everyday life, if I'm freaking out, I'm not going to go, oh my gosh. But more and more of that love consciousness is becoming me. More and more time that I spend in this field, it's like, what am I freaking out about? What is there to worry about? So it is pretty powerful in that way. Yeah, thank you. All
Thank
right.
you.
Any other questions or observations? You can raise your hand. Anybody else want to share anything, any blocks or anything like that? All right. Well, if you have any questions after and you want to, I can stay on a little bit. We can talk if you want to do it more privately. All right. Closing your Akashic records. You do not need to close your Akashic records right now if you don't want to. You can stay kind of woo if you want. So closing your Akashic records, again, simple, straightforward. Set your intention to close your records. I usually, when I do a session with someone, I just say, your records are now closed. And that's how I do it. You can ask, command, or state that your records are now closed. You can visualize closing a book, shutting a door, or any other imagination that you have. You can clap your hands, blow out a candle. Some people, kind of like they're clearing something. It's lovely, but you don't have to express gratitude, so that there's like this reverence, like, oh, that was lovely, thank you. And then ground yourself. And ground yourself is important just because it is this different vibration. It is this higher realm of consciousness, and it can leave you feel a little bit, woo. One of the things I didn't include in the guidelines was do not operate heavy machinery while you're in the records, because you are in an altered state, basically. So some ways to ground yourself are, drinking water, having, some protein. I often keep, almonds with me, touch the earth, etc. So your Akashic records, when you are present and set the intention for accessing the realm known as the Akashic records, you are simply bringing your awareness to where they already exist within you. So what the records did for me is it expanded my remembrance of oneness. And in that oneness, we remember we are the Akashic records, right? There is no separation. So I do have other ways you can access your records. And today was just a simple prayer. Ellen's talked about using other methods. One method I offer is I have a 25-minute audio that's free. And if you join my email list, you would just go online to www, or HTTPS, whichever it is, veronicalee.tv, and a pop-up will come up and you fill that out, and then you'll get an automatic email to get 2 free gifts, and it's accessing your Akashic records, a guided meditation. So I have a 25 minute guided meditation that helps you access your records, if this is your modality that might feel good to you, right? As well, I had talked about my mom and I used to teach intuitive skills. I haven't taught since she's passed away, 2018, with, intuition, but this is a nice little 101 intuition book. It talks about, how to stay grounded, open, shielded, talks about all your clear senses, very simple little e-booklet. Some people, you won't be getting, I don't have a text email list. I only have an email list. But if you don't want to go to my website, you can also join my emails by text. And you would text my name, Veronica, to the number 22828. And when you do, you'll get an auto reply, and that auto reply will be another prayer to access your records. So if you're already on my email list, you could even do it anyway. Again, if you just in your phone, you would text the number, so where it goes up to, right here, you would text 228-28. That's who I'm going to text. And then you put in my name. So 22828, and then you put in my name, Veronica. And then you hit send, and then you'll automatically get a reply that is another prayer. Okay, so just another basic prayer. And if you follow up and enter my email list, then you'd also get the guided meditation. So just making it easy for you to have more ways to access your records, because I'm all about finding what works for you. Everything I do is about empowerment. I want you to be empowered to be who you're here to be, bring forth your gifts, align with your truth. And the Akashic Records is just another tool. It may resonate with you, it may not, but I love it. I do teach a class. I started teaching this class 15 years ago, learning to access your Akashic records. I've been teaching it in person until the pandemic, and it was a 2-day workshop, all day Saturday, all day Sunday. And of course, I was limited to my, area. And after the pandemic, as we all got used to doing Zoom, even though I've been doing Zoom forever, I was able to successfully convert it online, and it's a little easier in the sense that you don't have to go anywhere. I have clients all over the world. So I set up the time to be much more accessible. But why would you, if I've just told you how to access your records, you do whatever you want, but why would you want to take a class? Because during the class, we spend a lot of time practicing with lots of methods. So you find the method that works for you the most resonant. So we use lots of prayers, including your own personalized channeled prayer. We do alternate nostril breathing. We play with divination tools, guided meditation, different than the one that I, am sending you. You explore ways to formulate and ask questions effectively. And you can also gain more insights because I give you plenty of questions that will let you go deeper and deeper into your records, and you understand and practice some more journaling. It helps you also in the workshop discern, because you're going in your records, playing with it, going out of your records, how to discern between your mind chatter and the records, as well as learning some tools that help release the blocks that get stuck from our natural, like, I don't know what I'm getting. And also I give you a certification of completion, which is, whatever. Some people like certifications. And then in the bonuses, I include 30 days of questions that are formulated. You get them all at once, but each day there are like 3 or 4 questions that you can ask that are really open-ended, that will bring you deeper and deeper, and then start to, really connect, so that like, if you don't know what to ask, it really helps you kind of keep working in your records for the next month or whenever you want to with more questions. My next class is a live Zoom course. It is 3 hours rather than 2 full days, 3 hours on a Friday, on a Saturday, and on a Sunday. And because I do have clients all over the world, it helps to have this sort of midday time. So 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. and it's $198. Normally my in-person is like, $300. So this is just $198. And I have a September special, which is if you choose to sign up for the class before the end of September, you get a free soul information session, which, it's just basically sort of like a mini reading, but within a group setting. And if you use that little QR code right there, then you can easily go to sign up. But you can also find it on my website as well. And so again, the September special gift with purchase is you register for the Learning to Access Your Akashic Records live Zoom class, and you get the soul information free. And you can join, I offer those twice a month. And when I offer them, they are set up either for a Friday or a Saturday. But on my website, you'll see here, this is a really easy way. So veronicalee.tv, there's that little pop-up. And then this is the special, and you click on register now, it'll take you automatically to the class. You click on that, go to your time zone, and then you continue. So any questions? I would love to answer any questions for you. There's nothing else. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen. We've come to the close. I did include the book, The Remember Who You Are, Insights from the Akashic Records by Sean Martins. It's a great book, lots and lots of resources out there. I highly recommend, just go play, have fun with this. See if you want to continue working in your records, use my free meditation, use this free prayer, whatever you want to experience it. And then ask yourself while you're in your records, is this class a resonant class for me, right? Or what else do I need to do to explore the records? Or are there other resources I should go check out? So the key is that if it resonates for you, here it is. And if it doesn't, no big deal, because this is all about you finding what works for you. So any questions at all? Anything else that anybody wants to comment or question? Just raise your hand and I can easily let you unmute yourself. I'll go ahead and stop the recording.